All right, so we have a few organelles left to do, not too many. We already covered a bunch of them. So we'll just continue on it. What we're doing is talking about each organelle, talking about what its job is, its function, and then we will talk a little bit about what it looks like. And then today we'll also look at a diagram of a cell and try to label some of these things so that we can know where they're located. All right, so vacuoles. Vacuoles are organelles in which they store things. So these small little sacs inside of the cell that basically can hold something inside of them. They might store water, they might store waste, or enzymes.
Wait, isn't sac spelled with a K?
Either way. So one difference between plant and animal cells is that plant cells have a really large vacuole around the center of the cell. And in animal cells, the vacuoles are generally much smaller.
So are our cells considered animal cells?
Yes, the cells in a human would be considered animal cells.
So we have small vacuoles?
Yes. So if you look at these two diagrams, this big thing kind of looks like an ice cube in the middle of this plant cell. That's the vacuole. And what happens is that's filled with water. And as it's filled with water, the cell kind of swells up and pushes against the cell wall and gives the plant cell a very rigid shape. And if that vacuole loses water, that plant cell starts to lose some of its shape. So if you imagine what happens to if you are growing a plant in your house and it doesn't get enough water, what happens to it at first? Before it dies in the initial stages. Jack?
It starts like floppy.
Yeah. It's like floppy, it starts to fall over. The reason is because there's not enough water to fill up that vacuole, so it's not pushing as hard on the cell wall, and it kind of gets floppy. It can't maintain its shape. But if you water it, and that water gets back into the vacuole, it swells up again, and it gives it that shape. So when plants wilt, that's what's going on there, that their vacuoles are losing some of that water. Okay?
What about sun? Is it different or is it just the same?
What do you mean?
Is it they just flop?
Yeah, same thing. If it's really hot and sunny out, plants lose more water, and so that what I just described is more likely to happen. Okay?
What about when you give plants too much water?
Yeah.
Does that happen?
No, not really, because once it gets in the proper amount of water, then the pressure prevents more water from going in. So that other things happen if you overwater plants. All right, so they're small in animal cells. They just kind of look like little circles. The lysosome kind of looks just like a vacuole, but it's filled with, here's one more picture, sorry. So this is an actual electron microscope image of a cell, of a plant. And what you see, all this stuff that's kind of gray here, that's all the central vacuole filled up with water. And so you can imagine that pushing. It's like if you had a pool intertube or something, or a float, and you let some of the air out, it's kind of floppy. That might be like an analogy. All right, the lysosome are these small little sacs, but they contain enzymes that are important for digestion. Enzymes are special molecules that help something to happen, help a chemical reaction take place. So these enzymes help digest things. What does that mean in science? Digest something. What?
When you swallow it and then it
Yeah, it sort of breaks things down. Okay? And so these lysosomes in a cell, let's say if another organelle no longer is working and needs to be kind of recycled in a cell, the lysosome can break it down and return its components back to the cell. In some white blood cells, when they engulf like a bacteria, the lysosome can help break that down. Sometimes when cells die, the cells are programmed to die after a certain period of time, the lysosome inside the cell breaks open and those enzymes start digesting the cell from the inside, and the cell dies. All right, two important organelles that are related to energy. The mitochondria and the chloroplast. Yes. So the mitochondria is a really important organelle. And what it does is it supplies the energy that the cell needs. Cells need a constant supply of energy in order to work. And it's the mitochondria that gives them that energy. Sometimes you'll call it the mighty mitochondria, like the powerhouse of the cell, providing energy. And we're going to talk a lot about this in maybe next week. But there's a chemical process that happens in the mitochondria called respiration. Basically, it takes fuel and turns it into a useful form of energy that the cell can use. So anyone ever heard of chloroplast? Not really? Okay. Chloroplast is an organelle. It's found in plants only. And chloroplast is where photosynthesis happens. Oh, sorry. This is an electron microscope image of a mitochondria. They look like kind of a bean shape with all of these folds inside of it. So if you're still looking for a Halloween costume, maybe it could be a mitochondria. Sure, that'd be really popular.
Then you have to explain to everyone.
Yeah.
What you were.
And then you could demonstrate all of your vast knowledge of
Wait,
science,
everyone could
and they would
do
be
this
so
now.
impressed.
You have to be very strong.
Everyone could be a different one, and then you would remember.
That'd be a good idea too. All right, chloroplasts. Chloroplasts are a green color. They're found in plants only. They are what make the leaves of these plants that I have here green. So these leaves, the cells in these leaves have many chloroplasts in them. And chloroplasts are important because they have this pigment called chlorophyll. That's what makes them green. And these organelles use the sun's energy to make food for the plant cell. You guys learned about photosynthesis?
Yeah.
Okay. What is photosynthesis? You could explain it. Okay?
It's when a plant gives itself with sunlight.
Well, it uses sunlight. What were you going to say, what?
I was going to say that absorbs the sun's energy.
Yeah. What is it doing with that sunlight? It's actually making something. Yes. And this year we're going to learn what that food actually is. Because food, it's not like making veggie burgers and French fries for itself. It's making a specific molecule, glucose. Yes. That process is called photosynthesis.
Were you watching a video?
We are, not that. So chloroplasts are the organelles that plants have that go through this process of photosynthesis. You're going to be looking at cells that have chloroplasts in them eventually. So all this green stuff inside of these plant cells, that's the chloroplasts. Here's a better image. These little circles are the chloroplasts. They look like sort of an oval with a bunch of discs in them. Yeah, Sophia?
So plants are heterotrophs?
Autotrophs.
Oh.
Autotrophs, yeah. Plants are autotrophs, and animals are heterotrophs. All right, so let's look at these organelles inside of a cell with some diagrams.
Oh, do we have to write all this?
You're going to write things eventually. So, yeah, they do. All right, if you didn't have the labels. So, let me kind of just describe to you what the organelles look like again, and then we'll label your diagrams. So, nucleus, large organelle, typically like around in the middle of the cell lots of times. It's pretty big. Inside of it is a smaller structure, the nucleolus, which is inside there to make ribosomes, and also inside that nucleus are the chromosomes, the DNA. The outer layer of the animal cell is the cell membrane. It's flexible. Often animal cells will be drawn kind of in a roundish, sort of blobby shape. Near the nucleus is a series of all these tubes, these membranes. Those are the ER. Some of them have ribosomes on them, these little dots. We call that the rough ER. And others don't have them. That's called the smooth ER. Also, usually out a little farther from the ER are the Golgi apparatus, those stacks of pancakes with delicious drops of golden, grade B, amber, New York State maple syrup. Also in there, the ovals, the bean-shaped organelles with lots of folds inside of them. They're the mitochondria. Lysosomes and vacuoles are just little circles. And those are the main organelles to know in the plants and the animal cell. The plant cell is the same organelles basically, but with some differences. First of all, you have the outer cell wall, sort of rigid structure made of cellulose. That's a shell around the cell. You have a really large vacuole in the middle, usually. And the only other difference is the mitochondria, for our purposes. The chloroplast. The chloroplast, there are lots of times around the edge of the plant cell so that they can absorb as much light as possible. And inside of them, they have these little stacks of chips, look like poker chips or something. All right, let's label your diagram now. All right. See if you know any of these. Let's start up here. Jake, what is it? It's the ER. Specifically the rough ER. How do we know it's the rough ER? Has the dots. What are those dots? Ribosomes, which make protein. What's this yellow stuff? Raise your hand, please, if you can tell me what the yellow stuff is. Danielle? Sophia? No? Max? Cytoplasm. Cytoplasm. Like Ghostbusters. Ectoplasm. Cytoplasm.
How are we gonna remember that?
Yes. How about this? Olivia? It looks like it. It's actually, we're going to call that the Golgi body. It looks very much like the smooth ER, however. And actually, because if this were out a little ways, it's not a great diagram, but I'm going to call that the Golgi bodies. Kind of flattened pancakes. All right, what about this? This is one. It's pretty distinctive. Maya? Mitochondria, yep. Now this green one and yellow one of them, they both look identical, really. One is a vacuole, one is a lysosome. You're not going to have to know the difference because you can't really tell from just a drawing.
Are these colors just to see?
Yeah, these are just made up colors. Most of the cell is just actually transparent. You can't really see any color to it. What about this little dot? That little blue dot.
Oh, that's the protein.
No one? How about if I tell you what it does? Makes protein. Danielle?
You just said it, but I don't remember what it was.
Olivia?
Ribosome?
Ribosome. Ribosome. What's this big thing in the middle? Raise your hand. Don't just shout it out loud. Danielle.
Something that's not really the brain.
But I'm asking for what it is. Don't tell me what it's not.
Wait, doesn't it begin with an N?
Yes.
Yes?
Night clothes.
Not your night clothes that you wear when bed is coming. It's the nucleus. That specifically is a nuclear membrane, that outer layer of the nucleus. The entire thing is the nucleus.
Oh, I know it was night clothes.
I don't really love where this arrow is pointing because I think I should be pointing like down here a little bit, but Olympia, what would you call that? That would be the smooth ER. You could write just smooth ER if you want.
Not the big holes. Endoplasmic.
What's this outermost layer that we see? Sophia?
The cell membrane.
The cell membrane.
Wait, we can write smoothie, right?
Yes. Last one. Need that still?
Oh, wait. What was that?
All right, let's start up here.
Wait, I missed it.
Quiet, now is not the time for that pencil sharpener.
Right.
It's time for the XP2400 stealth.
Right.
All right, what is this up here? Raise your hand. I'd like to see some new involvement for some people I haven't called on in a little while. Balthazar. Close, but not quite. Mitchell. That is the cell wall because this is a plant cell. That outer layer is the cell wall. What's next? Raise your hand. Maya. Now, not quite. Balthazar? That's a vacuole, that large central vacuole that we find in plant cells. What would be in it?
Water.
Water.
That's the only color.
This is pointing to this very thin blue layer. Devin?
Cell membrane.
That's the cell membrane. It's just inside of the cell wall. What about this little thing? Maya, ribosome. How about the gray stuff? Matt? The gray stuff? No, this? Why do I have to wait? What am I waiting for, man? Sophia. No. Mitchell. Close.
I got it.
Jake.
Chloroplast.
No.
No, it's right here. It's right behind you.
Maya.
The cytoplasm?
Yes, the
That's
cytoplasm.
the one I knew because I tried to answer it for the last time you asked it.
All right. What about this green thing?
Oh, I know.
Maddox. Close. Chlorophyll makes this green, and it starts with that. Not chlorophyll. The organelles called a chloroplast. Yes. Chloroplast. What's this whole thing in the middle? It looks like a face in this diagram. What's the whole thing, Jake?
Nucleus.
The nucleus. Oh, I'm sorry. This is an outer layer we're pointing to. The nuclear membrane. What's the dark area in the nucleus? Just add a letter or two. It's not the nucleus. It's the.
Oh wait, the nucleus. The nucleus.
Olus. Nucleolus.
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 Oh, so it's not.
There's a nucleus, and in the nucleus is the nucleolus. That whole thing is the nucleus. What do you think this is trying to show?
Oh, I got it.
Olivia.
Lysosome?
No. Danielle?
Yes.
Is it the mitochondria?
Yes, mitochondria. What about this little stuff in here? Wyatt.
That would be like
Yeah, we'll just call it the ER. It's not clear if it's the rough or smooth ER. Everyone's going to know this one.
I know. It's the nucleus.
What does it look like? First describe it, Maya.
Pancake is grade A, maple syrup.
Not just grade A maple syrup.
Grade A.
Grade A. 100% New York State amber, freshly boiled maple syrup. Golgi bodies, Golgi apparatus. That is also true. I like Vermont syrup. I went to school in Vermont. So.
You did?
I did.
Vermont.
University of Vermont.
Lysosomes.
Lysosomes aren't shown in here. They're just like little dots, little circles.
They're really tiny.
Yeah, they're
What
small.
if we used a microscope on this?
On what?
On this paper.
You would just see the fibers of the paper, maybe. All right, any questions?